I have a spare ball with me. Straight into corner. He definitely struggles with the idea of like being witnessed, you know, as a human being. But yet, like, the place he skates best in the world is South Bank, which is literally set up like a zoo. And I think that conflict of like having to be filmed but wanting to be invisible is something that he's like gotten way better at.
He's quite a private person too. I think it's really good for him to do this. I've known him for so long, I've known him since a kid, so I still see that in him. Whereas if I look at it, you know, objectively, he's like 6'3", big dude, got loads of tattoos, skates fast, kind of like gets angry when he skates, and that could be quite intimidating, but he's like actually so opposite to that.
He kind of lands tricks through pure force of like will and like just physical strength. And there's something in him that is really like unresolved, but like powers him. And we don't really know what that is.
He takes it very, very seriously. And I find that hard. If I take it that serious, I feel like it will put too much pressure on me. I have to have fun with it, but sometimes he doesn't like to have fun with it. He doesn't like to dick around.
I would say Ben's passing and the tragedy around that has sort of like invisibly been in the background of a lot of decisions and things that us and all of our friends have done in the past like 5 years.
Equally, the funeral was so amazing because everyone was there, and since that day, everyone seems to be more like, people say I love you more, skaters, whereas in the past we wouldn't do that. Like, people are just way more like, wear their heart on their sleeves and you've got each other's backs. There seems to be like a friendlier community. I think Casper really benefits from that.
I mean, Casper goes through it with mental health for sure. You know, he really tries. He does everything. He goes to the gym, he does like his daily routines, he eats well. He's just doing all he can, and he's still out of his mind. But
What's up? Welcome back to Epically Later. I'm really excited to get the opportunity to sort of leave where most of the episodes are, Los Angeles, New York, and come to London, England, and shoot an episode with Casper Brooker. One, it's funny because he skates for Baker, and of course, Epically Later has some sort of long-standing Baker bias. Casper grew up as a huge Andrew Reynolds Baker fan. We were here watching Casper skate, and it was one of the best displays of skateboarding I've ever seen. But I also love the skaters affiliated with Casper. We're gonna get to talk about a whole scene and community of skateboarding that we've never featured on the show. I think the Atlantic Drift videos really showcased him and a lot of other people really well. We're gonna meet up with Jacob Harris and talk about his videos. Casper, it's funny, he's like a super confident skater, but he was actually really nervous to do this. He was really close with Ben Ramers. Ben died of suicide. And so I think that's something that the community here and Casper obviously really struggled with. And so we're gonna talk about that a little bit. And I'm really excited to hang out with Casper and be here in England. So I hope you enjoy the show. What are some like uniquely London things you do or we should know about?
You know, it's not like I'm gonna go get a fry up every morning. I don't eat fish and chips every night, do you know what I mean? But like, I guess I make a roast dinner most Sundays, which is a very English thing to do. I enjoy going to the pub.
I like how you have like not much stuff.
Really? I feel like
It's pretty minimalist.
No, I try and do that every morning, which is like,
You have to remind yourself to drink coffee?
well, it's just like the thing of being like, because sometimes it's just hard getting out of bed. That sounds depressing, but it's true. But if I see that, then I'm like, all right, if you get up and drink coffee, then it's just like, oh, then the rest of the day's easier. Feels weird, like showing my bedroom.
I know.
I got into skating because I think it was Bart Simpson at first. I remember like watching The Simpsons, like, oh, that's cool. And then my brother got a skateboard and he's like 7 years older. So I was just like, the classic thing of like, oh, I want to do what my brother's doing. I'm from Purley, which is like 12 miles south that way. It's like a little suburb town.
Does it count as London?
Yes and no. Like it's in Zone 6.
we met at South Bank. I was probably like 16. He would have been like 14, 13 maybe. You know, he was wearing like skinny jeans. They were like very skinny.
You'll hear about this a lot, but he had incredibly tight trousers. He would go and buy girls' trousers, skin tight, and have big puffy shoes. He was super different, actually. Looking back, it's quite amazing that a kid, there's not really any other kids like that in London at the time.
I would wear like Topshop girls' jeans because I wanted them as tight as possible. I was obsessed with Baker Free. I remember downloading that on LimeWire and being like, oh my God.
Who were the skaters you looked up to?
From the age of 12, it was like Andrew, Spanky. I was just like, all these guys wear like tight jeans and look kind of insane, so I want to look like that.
When I met him, he was already like so good at skating.
I didn't really get English skating at that point. I didn't even know Flip was a English company until way later on. I remember hearing that Rowley was from Liverpool and I was like, no way.
When I first saw Flip videos, I didn't even recognize them as being British in any way. That was like just an American thing. They skated like Americans, even though they were Europeans. The first sort of like videos that had like a proper like cultural influence or like made me realize like, oh, a skateboard video can be this like amazing thing with like depth were like Blueprint videos. So like Lost and Found really transformed the way that I thought about skating. And Nick Jensen has pretty much always been my favorite skater.
Yeah, no, I mean, Blueprint was where I got picked up from like being skating at South Bank and kind of like then had free boards and felt really stoked that I had this like recognition from a company that was like giving me stuff.
So talk about Paul really quick. He was a teammate on Blueprint.
Yeah, so Shai would have been like the older generation guy that I looked up to that was always like quite charismatic and fun.
Yeah, I guess people could relate to what we were doing, and we were skating in England mostly, and it didn't seem like a far off thing to get to if you were like a British skater. To ride for an American brand, it seemed impossible at that time. Dan McGee was like the brains of Blueprint, and his vision was kind of like light years ahead of what was happening in the UK at that time, whether it's just the visual side of it.
It didn't appeal to me, but like all my other friends were trying to dress like Nick Jensen or like try and dress like Brady. But I was like 12, 13, I just wanted to see like Eric Ellington switch frontside flip stuff. Well, where I grew up, it's like one part of it is really nice, another part of it is pretty gnarly. Like I'm from the nicer part. I mean, I got chased like countless times, like punched so many times, like robbed so many times. But when I would go to South Bank, I didn't find it very intimidating for some reason, which I definitely should have.
People were quite protective of the scene, so I think in London it was actually quite like an aggressive scene.
Watch Tom.
You go to South Bank and like it was pretty intimidating. Well, people would just be there skating fast and like shouting at you if you got in the way.
I fucking hate South Bank. It's a fucking cave. Like if it's raining, you can't skate there because it gets like wet underneath. And on a sunny day, like why on earth would you want to be like underground in this like echoey, like dark, horrible like pit?
You know, if you could go skate South Bank well, people would respect you in some way. And it was quite kind of like, I guess as a kid, quite a big deal to be able to go there and skate and people give you praise.
I think I was just there so often that I became a part of the furniture pretty quickly.
Someone described you as like the mayor of South Bank.
So a regulator. Now just keep it peaceful, innit? You know, like respectful, safe to skate, good vibe at all times, innit?
What are the types of things you have to regulate?
Crackheads, just London activity. Like in your face, bullshit, innit? Robberies. That don't really happen no more though. Seen some funny shit, seen some fucked up shit, seen some traumatizing shit, innit? See some shit for real still.
I don't really like skating in front of people, but at South Bank, there's hundreds of thousands of people walking past, but somehow from growing up there, I can just block it out.
And he skates it kind of like no one else, you know? I guess he's been skating South Bank for like almost 15, 20 years. So I think he probably is like an OG at South Bank now.
But I'll be completely honest, like when I got to like 11, I was like, I want to be a pro skater. And then I would skate South Bank a lot, and then I met Foz, and I knew about heroin, and I kind of thought it was him, so I was just trying to show off in front of him. And I got really obsessed with heroin. I was like, I'm going to get on heroin.
Yeah, it sounds sketchy, saying he got on heroin, if you don't know what it is. Heroin Skateboards was like a London company by Foz. And yeah, we'd go around Foz's house and like he'd give Casper boards and shit, and Foz would be doing weird things in his kitchen, like dissecting mice.
He was just this little kid that I met at South Bank. He always used to ride our boards. So I ended up like selling him boards like for cheap.
It was the day before I went back to school after summer holidays. I must have been like 14. Went to the skate park, and then he called me and was just like, hey, I think you should skate for heroin. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, I could do this.
His skateboarding, it was good, but then it was like next level, and you were like, oh damn, we better like hook this kid up.
Casper just was like trying to ollie massive things and over things and just be a bit gnarly and smith a handrail and stuff, which in England is quite impressive because there aren't many handrails and a lot of people gravitated more towards skating ledges.
Casper's always the one who steps into like unknown territory. It's one of the first time me and him skated the handrails at the skate park. He ended up going first, sacked the rail, scorpion, like the hardest I've ever seen someone scorpion before. And I was like, I'm so happy I didn't go for that first.
We had a crew called HCP. It stood for Horrible Cunt Posse. And that was, I think you could get him to show you the tattoo. He's got it like here.
Can you show us the other one? The cunt clam.
I don't know if you can even see it. I don't know if that should be in there.
Casper was like a little shrimp. Like he was a tiny kid, and nobody had any idea that he'd like fill out into this sort of like Disney prince physique. And I think for years he was always searching for his identity within skating.
We were both on America at the same time.
There was this team manager called Percy Dean. Percy called me, he was like, oh, there's gonna be an America UK tour demo. And it's gonna be Andrew, Jerry, Brian Herman, you, Tom Knox. He was like, how do you feel about that? Because I was so anxious and was so in my head at the time. He was like, you don't have to come on this trip if it's gonna trip you out. I was like, no, I got this. Andrew's been one of my favorite skaters since I was 11 or 12. So I was really like, oh my God, I'm going on a trip with Andrew Reynolds. If there's a time to try and like make money from skating, it's right now.
The thing I remember about him from that tour was that he was just like skating so fast and so hard, like everywhere we went. That's really what I remember, is that he was just like going for it.
He was like the one, you know, like we were skating with a bunch of local people in London, and he was the one that stood out. I was like, this kid's rad, this kid's got it.
There was a demo at Myland Skate Park, and I remember him being a part of it.
We all went down to kind of cheer our guy on. He was kind of like skating around, looking kind of nervous or whatever. We were all just like, do something good, like do something good. And he was like, okay. And then he just like ollied off the flat to this huge bank, like nose blunt slid it, and then rode into this bowl thing and like shut the whole thing down.
One of the like standout things on that demo, for sure.
All of my references to London are just Morrissey lyrics or Beatles.
Have you done the classic Beatles zebra crossing?
No, I've never been to Abbey Road.
That's it, yeah.
What music?
I hate talking about music.
He'd ridden for us for like quite a few years, and I think there was this perception of him as the little kid skater, and then once he left, he sort of like came into his own a little bit, and it was totally cool. It was totally cool with me. I knew it was coming. It was just a, natural progression, really.
I know it sounds fucking cliche to say, but I wouldn't be where I am today without his help. I actually got hit up by Nike around that time.
When he got on Nike at first, that was from just like footage of him just like skating South Bank in the way that he does.
This was like, okay, he's really been honing his craft at an iconic spot. And I think that's when we started to take notice.
And then I was skating with Jake and Nick and Tom. And then they had all left Blueprint and they were starting Isle.
Me and Nick were talking that we wanted to do something with a couple of people.
He was like, we could start a company. Would you be up for it? And I was like, this will be fun. Like, I can do some of the art direction. Because I've always kind of wanted to do that, but didn't have that place at Blueprint.
At the time, I was already on Blueprint, so I got put on Isle.
Having someone as like dedicated and hardworking as Tom in terms of filming video parts and putting things together was so good for Isle, and he was on quite soon. And I think that gave people like Casper a feeling of like, it's legit, because Tom, people looked up to him, and he was that younger sort of guy doing mad shit.
So definitely it is like uniquely British. It's like Tom kind of specializes in skating stuff that you can't skate. He's so good at like navigating like crusty, fucked up ground. Because London, like, it's all really jaunty angles and like there isn't much space and the spots suck, the ground sucks. So he was definitely like formed in that furnace.
I still just tripped out that his name is already a pro skater.
We used to joke when we were younger that he would never get out of the shadow of like the original Tom Knox. I think he must have by now, but like still if you go on like his parts on YouTube, there'll still be like 20 comments being like, oh, I thought this was the original Tom Knox. And it's like, how could you think that?
I didn't even know about him until I was like, 14 or something. And then I looked him up and then I ended up watching all of his parts and he was sick. I've been trying to make it happen to meet up with him and skate one day, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
We just brought people along as we were going along, and I always loved Casper skating, and it was just sort of like, cool, let's invite him, see how it goes.
You know, he was a great skater then as he is now.
It was definitely the moment where I was like, oh, okay, this is going to work out. But what I managed to do is be really dumb and like not make the most out of that opportunity at the beginning. Like I was at a weird point of my life where I was like, oh, skating is all I've ever done. Like I want a little bit of life experience. Jake Harris was trying to film with me and then I just go get like completely pissed the night before and then not answer his phone call the next day. I was just doing dumb shit like that for like a year and a half.
I think he had like a sort of like first girlfriend period. So I think he was like just enjoying like, yeah, hanging out with his girlfriend and having sex and like was like, oh, maybe this is better than being filmed on a skateboard.
Me and him have butted heads quite a lot over the years due to my actions. But if you're going to a spot and being like, I'm going to try this, I've done all the preparation, then he's in it with you. And he's so encouraging and he's so in the room and just there. He's incredible at filming. He's really talented at editing.
So I've been filming with him since I was 14. Yeah, the thing is with Jake, he's never wanted to film skateboarding in some way, and I guess that's the vibe. But he's really good at what he does. He loves making skate videos, but sometimes, yeah, I guess he doesn't necessarily love being out in the streets all year round in the, you know, wind and rain.
So Atlantic Drift stemmed from the Isle video Vase, and Tom Knox's part was like so incredible.
I remember we were just sort of like, oh, should we hit up Thrasher and get Tom's part put on Thrasher? And it was like a time when the internet worked a bit differently, and it was like getting a part on Thrasher was this huge thing, especially for like a British skater.
For everyone in the UK, that was like, whoa, he just did that? Like he, like skating in the way that he skates over here is now on that like gnarly Thrasher sort of level.
And I remember Tony reached out and was like, would you guys want to do some kind of series like based around Tom? We didn't really know what to do with that, but we were like, yeah, fuck it, we'll just assemble a crew, go on some trips.
Atlantic Drift trips are just so fun. It's like a lad's holiday, lads on tour. That's what's so amazing about those trips. There's no team manager, there's no company. We just get to go have fun.
Atlantic Drift was, I feel like, a breath of fresh air at that time.
There was a dominant aesthetic for a really long time in skateboarding that was very California-centric, and I think if anything's dominant for too long, people just want something refreshing.
Jake really brings this kind of, I would say, like Lynchian kind of high art value. But then he comes through with the good skating and like a really well done project where you kind of go, hey, this isn't like so overly thought of. Jake's persistence and Tom's skills have like both continued on this like upward trajectory where all of a sudden Atlantic Drift is like one of the, I would say, most heralded things in all of skateboarding.
For me, it just felt like, yes, like people get it, you know, like UK skateboarding, European skateboarding, it felt like a victory in a way.
Yeah, I think Atlantic Drift is probably like a kind of progression of UK skateboarding in terms of blueprint and stuff that Jake aspired to make videos like, and then kind of was able, I feel like, to elevate it even further. If it wasn't for that stuff, I don't think all of us would be where we're at right now.
Tony basically just gave us a chance, and it worked out way better than I could have imagined. And I think I was really lucky in that the crew of people who were my friends were just like really interesting.
He would always pop up in them with something like a little more creative. There was a all hippie jump video, and he like backside shoveted his board underneath a bench.
That was like such a fun episode. You know, is a hippie jump a real trick? Yeah, I think it is, but that sparked everybody off in like looking at spots around here in different ways.
I wanted to go on an Atlantic Drift trip. That was like a goal of mine, to go on one of their trips.
Did you ever do that?
They hit me up to go somewhere like really far away for 2 weeks, and I was like, dude, I can't do it.
I turned pro when I was 24, and I should not have turned pro then. I'm so surprised they turned me pro because I hadn't really done much. But I was really happy and I was very honored, but I remember being like, I don't deserve to be pro. Oh, that's my first pro board, the aisle one.
Is your name on it?
No, I think it's on the CB. Then I guess I had that. But like, they never put names on boards. Oh, that's a good board. It's a Ben board, which Enjoy did. I don't know if they released them, but yeah, good board to have.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty hard to talk about Casper without talking about Ben.
Hello mates, this is Ben Ramers, currently transmitting from a place called Great Britain, also known as Blighty.
I met Ben when I was really young at a PlayStation skate park. He was just like flying around doing all these big airs, and he was so sweet.
How's it going?
It's going fine. It's a lovely day. The birds are singing, the sun is shining. What more can you ask for?
Man, I don't know. I've never actually spoken about this. I don't know, man. Yeah, my first skate trips ever, I went with Ben. I was 14 and 15. We were on a TV show together. It was called Rad, the Groms, on like terrestrial TV in England. He was similar to me and Casper. We weren't like the cool kids.
Yeah, and he was excited by the world around him, almost in a childlike way, sometimes in a good way.
I remember when Ben got on Enjoy, I was like, whoa, what the fuck? An English dude's got on a US company, and then he turned pro. We were all just like, whoa, that's amazing. And they had like covers of Thrasher, and he just like ticked all the boxes like very early on.
Casper and Ben definitely were tight by the end, and yeah, it's pretty tragic.
It's the mural that Rob did for Ben like 2 days after he passed away. But he had like a projector with the illustration onto it, and then we were all like painting the white with the rollers. When Ben passed away, you know, hundreds of people, like everyone around there, everyone was lined up here, everyone was chilling in the park there. It was like, yeah, it was crazy. Like I'd never seen that many skaters in London together. It's crazy to think that he could feel that way without knowing how many people cared. Ben had been like so good at skating for his entire life. It was so easy for him. Like everyone would be so impressed and he'd be like, nah, whatever. I mean, he could just do fucking anything on a ramp. Ben also cleared that channel gap. It was a Kingpin cover. It's so crazy. It's a very real thing when one of your friends decides to take their own life. All the telltale signs were there, just no one knew.
What were the telltale signs?
I don't know, I don't really want to like put it out there, to be honest with you.
I think everybody always thinks like, what could I have done? But Ben was just supremely good at masking it. And it is that classic thing of like, you know, comedians are the most depressed people because they put on this show all the time. The person who's always like trying to please everyone and like make everyone laugh, that's probably the person you should be like checking in on. And I remember towards the end of Ben's life, we tried to sort of like get him like out with us like a bit more because it was a conversation he was having a lot. He was like, oh, like I sort of just feel like I don't have a crew. I know Casper struggles with it. I know Knox struggles with it. It's like London or England or the United Kingdom is not a place where it makes sense to be a professional skateboarder.
I think when you're talking about English skateboarding, I think that is a product of English skateboarding. It's like being put on a pedestal in America, but actually you're living in fucking London in a small flat, in the rain, with not many people actually skating. You know, it's not like other places where there's loads and loads of people doing it. There's not that many people in London actually motivated. And Ben was one of those people for years, and then for years he kind of just slowly started like going off it because it's pretty lonely in London. I've definitely felt the last few winters, I'm like, man, I kind of feel like sometimes I've felt like it must have felt for him when you're just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing with my life. Yeah.
Sometimes you look at the trajectory of a skateboarder, like, it doesn't last forever, and I think Ben was struggling with a lot of things. That's always a bumpy landing, I think, when people come out of being professional skateboarders and they go into the real world. And that's not the only reason.
Casper was actually the one who told me that he passed. I was with Casper that day, and I was actually trying to film a trick at the time, and then as soon as I landed it, he kind of came up to me and told me.
Fuck yeah, so we were in this spot in central London and me and Tom were filming a line. Maybe just in retrospect, but I remember like a sort of eeriness came over the session. And there's something like that I always think about that's particularly poignant about having like kind of the last few seconds before knowing that your friend has died on footage. And then it just like hit us like a freight, like everybody was just like crying, and then like we just went to the pub, and then everything was a bit of a haze from there for like a long time.
It was a bit of a wake-up call being like, if you carry on doing this and ignoring your problems and just like, you know, don't feel any feelings, like that could be you. I knew there was a potential for me to get to that point in my life. And then COVID happened not that long afterwards, and I was sat in here and I'd just be like crying on the floor in the middle of the day. I'd be like, something's not right, like this is fucked. So I started doing therapy. From doing that, I started to talk about anxiety, depression, and then kind of learning why I have certain behaviors and why I do certain things. And then through that I was like, well, the only thing that really makes me feel better is like skating and exercising. So I'd skate every single day and then ride 20 miles after skating. And then through that I was like, oh, I just feel way better, I look better, I'm better at skating, just like everything sort of came into place a little bit more. I think I lost a lot of time from not putting as much effort into skating as I should have. And I got to like 26, 27, I was like, there's a timeline on this, like you kind of have to, if you're gonna do it properly.
Skating in the UK, like, it revolves around going to the pub, a lot of it. You basically go skate for a bit and then all go to the pub, you know? So I think once Casper kind of started going through phases of being sober for months at a time, I don't think he ever had an issue with drinking, but once he started to do that, I guess his body just reacted well to it, and then he really started to thrive. And having South Bank right next to him helped, because he loves skating there and you can just get the body going.
He had that Nike part that was all at South Bank, which was like mind-blowing to me. Like anyone who films a whole part at one spot is like really sick to me, because that shows like you can do a lot of tricks, you know?
And at that point, that was like my like, okay, I'm a big fan of this guy. I don't know if anyone else has said this, but he like really came into like, this is my skating, this is my spot. I'm like in the cold, in London. I like that when someone has like a really strong vision and they just stick to it. I have like a folder of parts on my YouTube, or what's that called, a playlist. And I put that one right in there. I was like, yes, this one I'm gonna watch again because it gives me ideas, you know?
Isle had sort of been kind of slow for a while, and Atlantic Drift had really become its own thing because they were kind of tied together for a long time. And then Atlantic Drift really solidified itself as like, no, this is Jacob's thing.
I probably wasn't being true to myself and to the riders for the last sort of like three or 4 years of Isle, because I was just obsessed with painting. And my interest in like knowing stuff about current affairs through skating had just flown out the window. I think those dudes sensed that, and they were just like, this isn't really going anywhere.
Yeah, people wanted to leave. That energy sort of like came towards me. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, maybe I'll give that a shot, owning a skateboard company.
I mean, I was excited about that idea.
And so we had this big curry at my house, this Indian dinner, and like everyone came, and I was just like, let's just all be honest and talk about it. And everyone just talked about it.
Make complete sense to me. It's just evolution, right? It's like Blueprint, Isle, Atlantic Drift.
I think it was a pretty mutual feeling for a lot of people. Like, I think Nick was like, maybe not emotionally checked out, but like, I think he kind of knew that like at some point it was going to end. And
then Jake decided he didn't want to do it.
So it was really exciting at the beginning. And then I got long COVID for like about 3 months, which sucked. And that's the time when it was like all meant to come together. I was like assembling like a graphics team and all this sort of thing. And I just had like no capacities to even think. And it kind of dawned on me like, I don't know how long this is going to last for. So I just, at some point, just had to pull the plug.
He was really unwell and no one was annoyed at him. It's just like, you had to do what's right for you. Like,
I felt terrible. Yeah. I really felt like I'd like stitched everyone up. Out of guilt, like I remember one of the first things I did was like, I'd been speaking to Reynolds anyway about like a separate thing. And I was like, oh, by the way, like if you're interested in like Casper, for example, maybe you should like nab him.
Jacob actually hit me up because we had been talking here and there and just said, you know, Casper's got a couple board offers, but I think like he's like a Baker fan and loves you guys and has always wanted to be on Baker. I asked all the people I'm around every day, Spanky, Jay Thorpe, Mike, like, what do you think about this?
I was like, yeah, for sure. And he's like, okay, it's already happening kind of thing. Like, it was just like, it all happened like really quick. For me, a big part of it was he was sort of like a Baker America kid growing up. It felt like he was like coming home.
Anyway, I was like skating this shitty mini ramp with my friends and I get this text being like, maybe Andrew Reynolds. He was like, hey, it's Andrew. Have you got time for a call soon? And I like didn't respond for like 3 hours because I was too anxious. And then I responded being like, yeah, man, like would love to next week work for you. And he was like, what about now? And I was just like, fucking hell, I can't, what? This is crazy. He called me and he was just like, yeah, there's a spot for you. This will be your home if you want it to be your home. Just sit on it and get back to me. And because I was like, in my head, I was like, I should just say yes. But I was a bit like, so much stuff is going on. I need to just take this in for a second.
He was really excited. I think he had to come to terms with the fact that this was like his childhood dream.
I ended up just like on my phone, like getting up the Lou Reed song, the classic Baker one, Street Hassle, just sending him a screenshot of that and being like, I'm super down to skate for Baker.
He just texted me a picture of like the classic Baker board with his name on it. And I was just like, no fucking way. I was like, that's crazy. We used to go to like Karim and Brooks' house in Elephant and Castle. And we'd like stay up all night, smoke weed and like play skate and Tony Hawk's and shit and be like, obviously he'd always be like Andrew Reynolds. And then like Baker boards and stuff and it's like, now you got your own Baker board. It was just like unbelievable.
I just remember him being so giddy, like just being so excited. And obviously like you grow up from, years of skating and you're like, it starts to like, not to say lose, you don't lose the love, but like it changes. I feel like your love for it changes. But like to get that kind of feeling that you had when you were a kid is quite rare.
I'd say that that's almost like peak life for him.
I was just like, wow, that totally makes sense. And that rips, you know, I was like so stoked for him.
I don't really know how to explain it. It was a very shocking experience. Because I never thought I'd ever even have like an opportunity to be on that phone call.
The fact that he had one of the best parts in that new Baker video is like, I'm so proud of him and where he's gone and what he's achieved in skateboarding.
You know when you see people on YouTube taking one part out of the video and posting only that part, you know there's a reason because they're not trying to watch the whole thing. They just want to see that one part. And I kept seeing that for his part. And it shows. He just like worked his ass off. Like, he didn't take the opportunity lightly. And that's a video with like a lot of like big name pros and up and coming people, and like a lot of people are in that video.
Well, I guess with Baker, there's such a big team, and there's like almost different pockets of it. But yeah, I'd say like Stu, Spanky, Andrew, that's my kind of pocket in there.
He's like such a charming guy. He's like beautiful, and he like is scared of everyone. He came out here to finish Baker as a Death Wish 2, and we just hung out like every single day.
I was kind of like, I haven't really ever like tried my absolute hardest for a part. I was just like, well, I should kind of try and prove myself. So I was really motivated for that.
But his part's just like dreamy, like him. But yeah, I like his part. He skates fast and he like grinds far, and he's a perfectionist, and he skates like that when no one's filming.
Yeah, what can I say? He was just fucking killing it. Anytime you're around somebody who's just like living up to their potential of that moment, and you can just see that they're after it, they're so focused. They see the opportunity and they're like, I'm gonna take advantage of this and make this awesome. And he was absolutely doing that, and it was rad to just bear witness to.
Yeah, you might have to get Beagle. Beagle would be really sick. He'd be like, oh man, a Casper.
Seeing Casper skate a schoolyard in LA is a sight to see. It's like he's a free stallion just galloping around the fields, just backsmithing tables just over and over and over. And it kind of makes sense because I've never been to England before, but I imagine it's like they don't have those big schoolyards. It's more like a dense kind of city vibe. So when he's out here, he's just galloping around in the free range. You could see he really loves it.
I think he proved himself like a long time ago, but I think he's also just like rapidly getting better and just personally holds himself to a high standard. Like the Jaquan blunt slide kickflip. He'd do it like multiple times and then just be like, I don't like that one. And like to me, I was like, what do you mean? Like they're all great.
So sometimes people will send a clip like, what do you think? Like, am I good? And I'm usually pretty straight up about it. Like, you know, if it was me, I would probably go back. Because going back is just part of the deal, you know? Like, and nobody wants to hear that, and I don't feel like an asshole saying it. I'm just saying, like, you know. You already know. So I think there was like multiple trips on the blunt slide kickflip out that he was doing them and land kind of weird, or the kickflip out would be rocket, or something was just like, sends it, like, what do you think? I'm like, honestly, give it another day, you know?
That day, Stu was driving me to Jaquan, and I'd done the trick a bunch of times, but not how I wanted to. A song that Ben always used to listen to came on in the car with Stu, and I was like, oh, I'll write it on my t-shirt. I had this marker in my bag, and I was just thought, oh, fuck it, I'll write Ben on it, huge. And then it worked out that day.
I think he knew like he wanted that to be his last trick, and he wanted to like show love.
Skateboarding's changed in the way that we look at all of these things of mental health and taking care of ourselves and taking care of our bodies, our minds. And it wasn't, of course, one thing in the culture that changed that, but for so long we valued like this eccentric way of being, these like I was a part of it too, you know, like just this destructive behavior was like pretty romantic, and I think naturally it's valuable to look at the other side of that and to address these things and to be honest about them. I think if people can recognize some struggles in some people that they look up to and they can destigmatize them, then perhaps it can help some other people too.
Happy fucking birthday, Casper!
Can we just see it before we celebrate?
Get the fuck! Oh, yeah.
What do you think you'll do after skate?
That is an interesting question, which I don't have an answer to, and I need to start thinking about it, because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Ah, not today. Nah.
It's a lovely day. The birds are singing, the sun is shining. What more can you ask for?
What are you eating, Casper?
Skittles, bitch.
What if your mother heard you speaking like that? Just go on the internet, she's gonna hear that. What are you putting on?
Slayer. You got it.